I decided I'm going to do all of season one of TNG. I have to do this one. Now, Tasha Yar in a weird outfit. Yeah, memorable. Not for reasons people usually think of when they think of Star Trek, though. This episode has a lot of that in it, though. Not really. It's something that I would persistently consider one of the better episodes. It has a plot point where the core aspect of the problem is one of those things that's such a bizarre sci-fi concept that by real world logic it's functionally impossible, and they ask you to believe that not only is it possible but that it is an imminent threat, and you know, if they don't fix the problem they're all going to die. Ah, yeah, okay. Anyways, though, now, to be fair, having a ludicrous sci-fi nonsense plot for a TTRPG session is absolutely a workable idea. I just don't like this one. Anyways, though, although to be clear, the concept of ludicrous is subjective to certain people's opinions of the. And while I personally hate this episode for that reason, I'm sure there are people who might actually like it. That said, though, there are many things about this episode that are actually quite interesting to look at and ponder from a storytelling perspective for if you're going to pull things for a TTRPG module you're writing. So let's look at it. One, they have a Federation starship, which is not the USS Enterprise, which is in need of urgent assistance. Okay, spoiler, it gets destroyed, and they fail to save anyone on it. But they do come and investigate to figure out what is wrong with it, and that investigation. Well, actually, it's this investigation which causes them to nearly die too. But they do eventually learn something that lets them figure out how to avoid dying. So there's that. Also, it's actually the whole like impact with a stellar core fragment thing that's the actual like mortal threat here. I mean, yes, that crew of the Tsoikovsky got killed by their own insanity. The polywater intoxication caused them to display such erratic, irrational behavior that they accidentally killed themselves, like the entire crew of the ship. Which, yeah, kind of bizarre. Like I said, dead corpuscles, every last one of them. Anyway, though, yeah. E- Now this is the other thing that's interesting. Is like, isn't it kind of coincidental that it's lined up just so? Yeah. Um, Actually, listening to the way it's described in the episode, it sounds as though the whole stellar core fragment thing is actually not a, glowing rock being flung outward from the star, but rather a large object made of plasma, thus something far larger than the ship, and thus also something that would have reason to be large enough that it has a good chance of actually hitting the ship. These special effects, of course, do not convey that, but the way it was actually described in the episode did. Anyways, though, moving on. So the basic setup with this one is the Tsiolkovsky has been having issues, and the Enterprise is sent to investigate. They actually get to the investigation at the opening scene. See, Tsiolkovsky is uh, examining a dying red supergiant star, um, because well, the Federation's interested in science and stuff. So, they obviously have to take a close look at it to see exactly what is wrong with it. And of course, document its destruction for posterity and scientific reasoning and stuff. Yeah, well, see, the crew, however, like I said before, kind of go insane and kill themselves. So the Enterprise goes to find out, and this is the stuff that they find. Which, admittedly, this is actually all just like the opening scene. Um, they don't actually do much of anything with it, Tsiolkovsky after that. I mean, there's the ending part where it gets destroyed, but anyway, no, moving on. So this is an episode that's kind of weird because of the fact that a large part of the episode is about the crew of the Enterprise D starting to act crazy. Because the fact that the whole polywater thing is that it's some a typical method of water molecules becoming bound to each other that one needs to have a certain strange set of gravitational vibrations to cause it to come into existence. And two, even though the Starfleet has seen this happen before, they don't actually have their decontamination protocols set up to scan for it because why would they? And three, it's somehow infectious. Yeah, the polywater contamination thing. What's this weird thing with the polywater contamination is that the polywater somehow replicates and um in almost like a virus, except that it's not it has no DNA. It's just a abnormal form of water. I mean, it's called polywater because of the fact that even though they're technically a separate water molecules, this causes them to become bound together in a similar way to the way alcohol is structured, except that there's no carbon in polywater. It's just water molecules stuck together in a way that causes them to mimic alcohol. Like I said, it's a bizarre sci-fi logic thing because wouldn't you expect um, it to just, fall apart like normal water? I mean, yeah. Oh, according to this one, is that the molecules had somehow managed to absorb carbon from the humanoid that they were inside. Okay. Anyway, though, I personally wouldn't use polywater intoxication as a plot point, but polywater intoxication is the entire reason why I dislike this episode as a whole. If they had come up with a better excuse for plot to happen, I mean, making an actual virus, perhaps. Hey, a better foundation for the plot will help with player buy-in because if players don't have to mentally force themselves to play along with a story they think is stupid, they'll probably enjoy it more and also not need to force themselves to play along with it. I know. One of those things where it seems like a minor gripe, but isn't really a minor gripe. It's the whole like logic of like having a building on a foundation that's crumbling, and thus the building falls down because the foundation wasn't solid. Well, the basic fundamental premise of a story being good is crucial to building a narrative on top of that. Anyways, though, other than the polywater thing, this episode goes really, really hard in having the crew act in ways that are explicitly defined as abnormal within this episode. One of which is the fact that Wesley is a jerk and nearly destroys the ship. Oh wait, no. That's actually a normal plot point for Wesley. Yeah, you see what you find out is that Wesley somehow isn't affected in the same way as the rest of the people on the ship. He is affected. It's just that it doesn't make him mentally incompetent of doing anything. It just makes him, well, he stops suppressing his desire to be a smug jerk and just, lives his dream of being a smug jerk 24/7. It's kind of weird because of the fact that it is stated in this episode that the chief engineer on board the Enterprise is this gentleman by the name of McDougal, or woman, I guess, actually. And Jim Shimoda is one of the higher ranking engineers. Now, this is noteworthy because later on, Geordie LaForge is the chief engineer. One of the things that's interesting in Star Trek is that sometimes they will actually, in universe, have a character get promoted, but also sometimes they'll just kind of like quietly reshuffle characters behind the scenes and just like write someone out of the story completely without explaining why. And that is something that presumably happened here because McDougal, looking at McDougal, you see someone who is an awful lot like McCoy from the original series, except as an engineer and not as a doctor. Now, one of the things that's interesting here, though, is that she is actually apparently in more than one episode, but that is something that only pops up in Galaxy's Child, and that's it. And that's an interesting thing, is because now one could, from an in-universe perspective, say that something happened to McDougal, although they don't really look into that. That's actually something that's interesting, though, is that here it mentions that she was someone who, unlike Jim Shimoda, didn't go completely off the deep end. Because that was actually one of those things that you'll notice in the description of the Tsiolkovsky is that the various members of the crew were affected differently and reacted differently to each other. And this actually is what caused the ship's destruction, is that they kind of started fighting over who got to be stupid. And some of them actually tried to stop the other ones from being stupid, and then someone did the ultimate stupid thing and triggered a hull breach because they wanted to open a window on a starship. Yeah, I know. Incredibly stupid, and yet that's what killed them. Anyway, though, because of the fact that Jim Shimoda had partially dismantled the computer controlling the Enterprise, the ship is out of control and going to be destroyed. Jim Shimoda, on the other hand, is like, funny light. No, seriously. That's about as much discussion as you got out of him. He was completely just unable to even think. Now, noteworthy is that we do not see him at all ever again. Ever. McDougal at least gets mentioned once in the remastered version of one of the later episodes, only one. And yeah, interesting plot point. One could argue that the two of them ended up being in some way uh, permanently affected by this. Now, it is possible that McDougal's departure is actually something that wasn't her just leaving because she doesn't want to be on the Enterprise anymore. It could just be that she actually, got a what is considered a promotion just to a position in somewhere else. We don't know exactly though, because again, they don't say. Because there's actually a lot of named characters, especially in early TNG, that are never heard from again. They're not main cast, but it if you didn't know that, um, you would be easily fooled because you see this person in one episode and only one episode, and that actually see them quite a lot. Okay, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So this episode has several characters that are not main cast, but um, I wouldn't call them like NPC or GM insert NPCs, but more like plot relevant NPCs that the GM could use to try to steer the plot in a certain direction, but not necessarily control the plot. And overall, that's kind of sort the basic gist of this is though is that the the polywater plot isn't particularly complex. It's the whole character interactions thing forming a maze that needs to be untangled in order to fix things. And then once that happens, then you can just push the make it adventure stop button. Because that's kind of what this one is that, it's there's a threat, which is having the ship get blown up due to being immobilized due to idiocy, while a star is in the process of breaking into pieces and flinging pieces of itself into space like shrapnel. And fix the problem, hey, and the day's saved. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I don't like it though, is that it's all about the people that should be working together and fixing things getting in each other's way because they're too drunk to know what they're doing or something. Ugh. Again, if you like that kind of a story, great. I don't personally like it. The in some ways, the basic concept of the crew being incapacitated and unable to think clearly isn't a terrible idea. It's just I don't like polywater. Anyways, I think that's good enough for now. See you next time.